Welcome to the Addicted Mind Plus, the podcast where recovery, mental health, and wellness take the front seat. I'm Duane Osterlind, and joining me is my co-host, Eric Osterlind, known for his insightful work on the Stuck Brain podcast. In each episode, we'll dive into actionable, small steps to help those in recovery journey further along the path to wellness. Our conversations are designed to be concise, typically around 15 minutes, though we may occasionally delve deeper when the topic demands it. Our goal, to provide you with practical advice grounded in real experiences and expert insights to empower your recovery journey. So whether you're on a break, on a walk, or just taking a moment for yourself, join us as we explore the many facets of recovery and mental health, one small step at a time. This is the Addicted Mind Plus, where your journey to wellness gets an extra boost. So let's get started. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Addicted Mind Plus. I'm excited about today's episode. We're going to talk about values and really caring about the right things to harmonize your life. And so this is a really important topic because values, in a way, are our guiding light.
Absolutely. Values are important to us. They're kind of like a rudder on a boat, and they keep us going in the right direction.
Yeah. And if you don't know what your values are and they're not guiding you, you don't have that rudder, you don't have that guiding light, most likely in your life, you're going to feel a lack of fulfillment. You're going to be wondering what is my life about? What am I doing here? You're going to be stressed out because you're going to be living maybe someone else's life, not your own, because you're not guiding yourself by your values. You might even feel a lot of guilt because you might be betraying your values and not even realizing it if you're not clear about it. And often, if we're not living our life guided by our values, we can feel a lot of regret because we're going to be making decisions that aren't based on the values in our life. And often that can lead to a feeling of meaninglessness in your life because you're living a life not connected to these core values.
Yeah, and even if you're doing okay right now and you feel like you are living a purposeful life, it helps to go through your values every now and then and redefine them because they do change as you age and life circumstances, they do change. So this is important for everybody that's in recovery or that is being pretty stable in recovery. You want to go through your values and define them.
Yeah, I think that's really important to do because sometimes our values can change a little bit. In some ways, they're pretty static, but in other ways, as we shift, we change. And one of the big pitfalls of not defining your values is having misplaced priorities in your life. So you are not engaging in behavior that fits where you want to go or where your values are. And oftentimes what I see is that we're not focusing on our priorities because we haven't defined what those values are in our life. We're actually living someone else's life. What maybe our peer group is telling us to live, or maybe old scripts that we've got from early in our childhood about where we should be or how we should be. And we're living in those hypothetical situations that aren't actually aligned to us. So our priorities are not set and we're not living in a direction that takes us there. So we're not putting our time in a space that values those priorities because they're misplaced. We don't know where they are.
Absolutely. And this causes anxiety. This causes depressed feelings, sometimes a negative narrative, because we're not aligned with what we see as important to us. So it's super important to take some time to dive into values. So yeah, if you're not living to your values, you're going to put a lot of time and effort into something that doesn't really matter to you, or it's not going to cause you to feel fulfilled in life. And that's going to lead to dissatisfaction, anxiety, depression, those type of feelings we see often with people that haven't really set a North Star. Like, what am I working for? What makes me tick? And so that takes time to dive into.
Yeah. And you know what, also working in this profession and being able to work with all sorts of people and hear the stories that people come in when they're hurting or in pain and they're struggling. And so often this is such a big part of why they're struggling in their recovery is because they're not thinking about what their values are. They haven't really sat down and really thought it out. they're wandering around and their recovery doesn't feel complete because this is a missing piece. And it's important to be able to look at that. And often we take on these beliefs or these shoulds, if you want to call them. I should be like this. I should be like that. I should be doing this. I should be there. I should have this. I should have that. And really, that's from somebody else. And when they slow down and they really start to think about it, they start to find what's really worth caring about.
Yeah. So if you're feeling stuck or you're feeling like you don't know your way, this could be a way to get you out of that. You want to start looking at these values. And we'll talk more about that.
Yeah, we're going to get there because if you don't know what your values are, you're not going to put your attention where it needs to be. When we know what our values are, we can begin to make decisions in our behaviors that are informed by our values. And so we begin to grow selective attention. We're able to now say yes or no to something based on a calculation of our value system and not on an emotional reaction to it. So oftentimes, and I know in my life too, and I'm sure, Eric, you've experienced this as well, where an emotional reaction takes over and we engage in behavior or directions or work on a project or do something or engage in an addiction that doesn't fit with their value system because they don't know what that is. And the emotional reaction takes over and then pushes that forward. And now they're working for this other agenda that's not really even theirs. It's an emotional agenda.
Yeah, it's like they're living an incongruent life. They're not living in direction of what's really driving them.
Yeah, and that often leads to a lot of sadness and stress and purposelessness.
Yeah. And we see this a lot in practice. People will come in and they'll just feel like something's wrong. And then you start diving in and you realize they're in a career or in a marriage or something that's just not congruent with their values. But they're still sticking it out because they have those, I should be doing this. They're living someone else's narrative.
Yeah. And one of the things I see a lot is when people are in a strong recovery and they're really feeling good about it, they've done this value work. Maybe they haven't done it intentionally, like what we're talking about right now, like sitting down, but in some ways they've gotten to it and they've been able to say, you know what, this is my priority and those other things don't matter to me. And it strengthens their recovery. And when a person is having a hard time and it's difficult and the situations are difficult, they actually lean on their value system.
Yeah.
To help guide it. And it actually gives them a source of strength and power. And I see that a lot in people that have a strong recovery when I talk to them and I can tell like, oh, this person's done the work. They know where they're going. They know what's important to them. And they have the ability to say no to things that don't line up with their values.
Yeah.
They've also done the work of the emotion regulation piece of this. When you're starting to align to your values and you're starting to do that, it's learning how to say no when it doesn't align. And there's issues with that and that's emotion regulation and all that kind of stuff. And at some point we can get into how to handle that. But they at least know where that decision is and they know where they're going. And you can feel that strength from them.
Yeah, it makes it a lot easier to say no, to analyze something and say, no, this doesn't really fit with where I want to go with my value system. So I'm going to say no. A lot of us are people pleasers. We tend to want to always say yes. Don't miss out on an activity or an event. And it's hard to say no. And then we get overwhelmed. And so there's power in actually saying, no, that's not for me. That's not going to drive me in the right direction that I want to go.
So let's start to talk about what you were talking about earlier, which is starting to outline what our values, what are ways in which we can start to get there and start to define these things.
Yeah. So first off, you can have values in different categories. Like usually when most people think of values, they think of like, I want to live a life of integrity. That's a general value that's an umbrella over top of you. But we want to look at specific values. So you can have values within your career. You could have values within your relationships. And it helps to go through and define all these really specific values because that gives you more direction and detailed information on what I want to do with myself and where I want to go. So let's look at a typical one, which is relationships. And let's start breaking that down. Now, in your relationship, you can ask yourself, what kind of things do I appreciate about friends or partners? What's a value there? What's one thing that I wish my friend or partner would often do or be? How do I envision myself feeling in that friendship or partnership or marriage? What is one of the biggest challenges in connecting with others that I feel? These things start to develop values that you can then see, oh, is this relationship meeting these values or not, right? After you ask some of these questions and start to dive in.
So you can start to define it by asking some questions about these domains like relationships, careers, work, money, finance, health, fitness, fun, leisure, growth, learning, all these different categories. You can start to define them down and ask yourself questions in these categories to be able to start to really make it concrete.
Yeah.
So you can know what kind of relationship you value.
Yep.
And what is that going to look like? And I can say when I'm in a situation, I value relationships where I'm being treated with kindness. And I can say to myself, is this person treating me with kindness? Although I don't want to be lonely, I don't want to be by myself, I'm scared to do that. I can look at that and go, well, no, maybe this person isn't treating me with kindness. And that's my value. So maybe I have to say no to this relationship. Or on the opposite, this person is treating me with a lot of kindness. That's important to me. I'm going to nurture that relationship over time. So you can use it as a tool to help guide where you're going to go on this journey of life when you have this defined.
Absolutely. So it helps to do this in every category. So work and career is another one that we see often. People will be working in a career that they don't appreciate. And then when you ask them about the career, they say, well, I like the career, but maybe I don't like that it gives me freedom, or I can't predict my own schedule, or this career doesn't work for a greater good. Like I feel like I'm not doing anything for society. And so you want to define these things and look at what are those values that I have in career and workflow, and then apply them to your decision making. Is this the right career for me? Should I be changing? Can I change within the career? It just helps us make better decisions and say no to other things.
And not just no, I also like to say on the other side, say yes to the things that are meaningful.
Yeah, and nurture those.
Yeah, I think sometimes we can get lost, especially when we've had early trauma in our life. It can be really hard defining your values, and having these values laid out like this helps you make that decision and guides that. And it's just so important to do.
Absolutely.
So with that, we love to help everybody. So we've created a worksheet for this. You can go to the show notes, download it, and get the worksheet, write out your values, start to define your values. If it's a fit for you, share it in our Facebook group. The link will be in the show notes. Check it out there. It'll also be on theaddictedmind.com/plus. You can get it there as well. And we hope this episode has been helpful for you to guide you on the path to finding your values.
Absolutely. Making better decisions overall.
Yeah, absolutely. And once again, if you are getting a lot out of this episode, please share it with a friend who you think might benefit from listening to this podcast. We'd really appreciate that. And if you really want to support us, write a review in iTunes or wherever you are listening to your podcast. That really does help people find the podcast. We totally appreciate it. And thank you all who have done that. It means a lot to us.
It does. We read every one of those reviews. So thank you so much for them.
All right, everyone. Have a wonderful rest of your day. And we're going to talk to you on the next episode.
See you in the next episode.
Thank you for tuning into The Addicted Mind Plus. We hope today's episode has brought you valuable insights and a small step to support your journey in recovery, mental health, and wellness. For more information about this episode and additional resources, please visit our website at theaddictedmind.com/plus. And if there's a topic you're eager to hear about or a question you'd like us to explore, we'd love to hear from you. Reach out to us at theaddictedmind.com and let us know your thoughts. Your journey is important, and we're here to support you every step of the way. Until next time, take care and keep stepping forward on your path to wellness.